Morning everyone, and welcome to day 22 of the 30-day challenge. I hope you're all well and that you're all still sticking with it. So I think many of you will be relieved to know that we're not going to be doing any more sort of explosive plyometric work today because we have just done 2 days straight of that, and particularly if you're new to it, you might be feeling a bit sore and achy today. However, I do want to still stick with this theme that we have ongoing about our neurological development. So essentially our coordination and our brain's ability to be able to communicate with our muscles. So I talk quite heavily about the importance of skill development, or fundamental skill development. So fundamental skills are essentially these basic skills that make up more complex sporting movements. So each sporting technique can be broken down into sort of more basic subcomponents that we need to learn in order to be effective at performing that movement. So you might think, oh well, what does skill development have to do with strength and conditioning? Well, essentially, if the muscles that we need in order to perform a certain technique are too weak, then we're not going to be able to perform that movement. Okay, so that obviously has implications not only for our performance, but also our injury prevention as well, because we might get injured if we're doing the technique wrong by putting more stress and strain through our body than what we should be doing. And that goes for anything, including running, because I think there is a popular sort of tendency for people to think that running is just a simple case of going out your front door and putting one leg in front of the other, and we should all naturally be able to do it. But actually, it is a skill that needs to be learned, just like anything else. Like you wouldn't go into the gym and start lifting heavy weights, or like for example in a squat, if you hadn't learned the proper technique of how to squat, because you would expect to injure yourself. So running is essentially the same in that sort of regard, and running is also relevant to lots of different sports. My sort of slogan for my business is building the foundations of better health, and that's because I specialize in running more. Obviously I treat athletes from a variety of different sports, but running is sort of my specialism from all the experience I've had over the years doing it myself. And of course, the advantage of that is the fact that even if you're not a runner, even if you do team sports, you still have to run around a pitch or a court or something. So most sports do require running in some way, shape or form, so it's good to have running technique for those as well. So a key skill to do with running, so if we were to take running as a skill and break it down into smaller subcomponents, is balance. Okay, so you might this might not be immediately obvious to you, but actually balance is important for a running technique, because how many feet do we have on the ground at any one time when we're running? It's either 1 foot or no feet, because we have that phase where we should be sort of firing ourselves through the air. So it's actually more like a sort of a jump rather than a quick walk, like a lot of people think. Because unlike walking, you don't have that double stance phase, so there's no point where both feet are on the ground at the same time. You don't land with 1 foot and then take off with the next. There's only 1 foot on the ground at any one time. So essentially, for that reason, it's like a balancing act continuously. So you're always having to balance on one leg. And without that sort of stability from the strength that we've been doing so far with the other muscle groups that we've been targeting in the series thus far, like for example the core, the hip flexors, the glutes and all these different muscles around the trunk, if these are all weak, we're not going to be able to balance very well, and it's also going to have a knock-on effect of our coordination. So essentially I like to start with these basic skills and then sort of work up. Because it is amazing how many runners of all ages I see, from youth athletes, sort of primary school sort of age, all the way up to veterans who can't even stand on one leg, even with shoes on as well, which is easier because it gives you a bit of a wider base of support. Just doing a basic quad stretch like this, people find it tough. So that's obviously something that we want to work on. Now I have today got a wobble board to do the balance exercises that I'm going to give you. If you don't have a wobble board, don't worry, because all of these can be done without as well. Or if you, as an alternative, you could potentially just stand on a cushion or something like that. So first one is very simple. All we're going to do is we're literally just going to stand on the wobble board like so. Okay, so a few sort of technical points to look out for. Obviously try and engage your core, like I said, engage your sort of glute muscles. Hopefully, you know, if you are strong enough, you shouldn't have to think about that, and they are starting to sort of engage automatically. And then as you start to sort of balance for a little while, you should start to feel your lower leg and foot muscles engaging quite heavily as well. So it's a good all-round exercise. It's testing your trunk stability and also improving your ability to utilize those lower leg muscles, particularly around the calf. Now we can obviously adapt this a little bit, so if this is too easy and you want to make it a bit harder, then why not try closing your eyes and balancing on the wobble board. As you can see, I found that quite hard because you're eliminating that visual aid by closing your eyes, so you're eliminating that feedback, so you're having to rely solely on your sort of proprioceptive feedback from your foot. Also, we can change it up slightly as well, so instead of standing on one leg with your legs straight, you can think back to what we were doing with our sort of calf exercises, and you can just put a slight bend into this knee. So in that case, it's switching off that gastrocnemius and working a lot more into that soleus muscle underneath as well. So, and again, just try and remember our technique as well. So with this one, try and make sure that the knee is tracking over the outside of the foot. So again, this is a good one to try and test that ability to resist that knock knee sort of movement, so coming in that way as well. Okay, so like I say, you can do these without the wobble board. So you can just literally stand on one leg like so, stand on one leg with your eyes closed, or you could even try and go down into a single leg squat, which we're going to be covering in a bit more detail in a few days' time. Okay, so it's really testing that balance. So see how you get on with that. Again, like, comment, share to your friends, etc. Let me know how you get on, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 23.